This is Tuesdays with Ted. That's me. And I'm sharing with you everything that I know in hopes that you can elevate your life. Hello everybody, how's it going? It's Ted here, and it's Tuesdays with Ted. Oh, will you do me a favor? Grab the piece of paper I printed. I think it's right in here. We're talking about sleep today, everyone. Hi, how's it going? We're talking about sleep and how the benefits of sleep are going to help you live a better life. But first, before I do that, I wanted to say hello, welcome back. I'm back now. I was in Peru last week, and I really hoped to be able to go live with you guys. Thank you. While I was in Peru, but it just wasn't possible because the internet was just so slow, and I was barely able to post a photo of our group. But we had an amazing group, a retreat out in Peru, and it was quite fantastic. So I just want to share a little bit about that because it was such a powerful event. So I've been doing retreats for 14 years. 2003 was my first ever yoga retreat. I can't believe it. And I've been to Peru. This was my 7th time in Peru, and every single trip, whether it's a ski yoga trip with my buddy Tony, or Ashley and I used to do them together, or it's a trip to Chamonix, France, or Italy, or Africa, or Peru, wherever these retreats, we're doing one, my wife and I are doing one in Malibu in a month. And every single trip that I've ever done, there's a special group that comes together, and you have this kind of temporary experience, and people remember. Some of my best friends that I have now are people whom I've met on retreats. In fact, the 2 people who gave speeches at my wedding a few years ago were both friends I met because of retreats, that either came on my retreat or we led a retreat together. So there's this specialness about doing a retreat and leading a retreat, and I know some of you that thanks there, Vitali. Some of you know what it's like to be on a retreat and to go, and I'm a huge fan. Thank you very much there, Michael. A huge fan of yoga. Obviously, I teach yoga for a living. I love it. I love all the benefits. And years ago, I used to go on these yoga retreats. And it was great because you'd spend a weekend away and everybody would have a good time, and you'd do yoga twice a day, and then you would maybe hike in the middle of the day or get a massage or whatever. And because I'm not your typical yoga teacher, I was like, man, I just love hitting the mountain really hard and skiing and having a great time, or I love adventure and mountain biking. At the time I started teaching yoga, I was also an adventure racer. Adventure racing is a multi-sport event that includes mountain biking, kayaking, trail running, navigation, sometimes rappelling and rock climbing, and all kinds of crazy stuff. And I was just this hardcore athlete. At the same time, I was this kind of, peaceful yoga guy. And what I realized is that it was sort of a bummer because I had this competitive side on one side, I had this peaceful side on the other, and I thought, wait a second, maybe I'll bring them together. And that was when I did my first ever yoga retreat, which was yoga and salsa dancing. So I'm not the best salsa dancer at all now, but it was super fun to do that. And that was in 2003. And then 2004, we did a ski trip to Mammoth, yoga and ski trip with my friend Ashley Turner, who some of you know. And then in that same year, we did yoga surfing to Costa Rica, and since then I've been able to go all over the world in these retreats. And again, this particular episode is about sleep, but only because it's number 10 in the order and my little plan here. But I wanted to just mention the retreat because this particular one was so special. It's my 7th time down in Peru, and we added a little 2-day backpacking trip, camping trip to Rainbow Mountain and a glacier called Ausangate. And Ausangate is actually an amazing glacier in the middle of kind of the highlands, about 3 hours outside of Peru. And I don't know exactly how tall that peak is, but in order to go view it where we did, we had to go to 16,200 plus feet. It was quite amazing. Check out my Instagram, those of you that are on Instagram, and I'll post some stuff on the Facebook page too, because it's just unbelievably epic. And so to bring these people together was fantastic, and we got to visit a couple schools. My good friend Scott Pfeiffer, who many of you know as Pfeiffer Scissors in the original P90X, he now runs an organization called the Go Campaign, and this particular retreat is a retreat where we visit some of the spots that the schools that he supports and the different things. So we visited two schools up in the Highlands above 14,000 feet elevation, and these are, people in the middle of nowhere pretty much in Peru. And thanks Jennifer. In the middle of Peru, and they're just out there doing their own thing, kind of living off the land and surviving, and there's a little school, but they need help. And Scott's company helps them. There was one school we visited that we had visited 2 years ago, and because of Scott's help and the Go Campaign, and everyone who donates to the Go Campaign is actually part of this. So Lou, I think you're out there. I know that you're a huge supporter of the Go Campaign. But they built, in this little school, they built a greenhouse. So now the kids not only have vegetables that they can eat, organic vegetables that they can eat, but they also get to learn about growing and horticulture and vegetables and insects, and why you have to cover something because it's going to grow better, but also to protect it all. It's really fantastic. So not only do we get to do that sort of stuff, but we also get to visit Machu Picchu, we get to spend some time in Cusco, and we get to go to Pisac and Ollantaytambo and all these kind of very cool things. And it was a very special group. A lot of retreats that I've done over the years are awesome, but sometimes there's a little special connection. It's just right place, right time. And this woman, Jo, who is on the retreat, shared that she thinks that she's now going to adopt one of the babies. We visited an orphanage, and she wants to now, she's been thinking about this, so it wasn't like, hey, I'm going to go on a retreat and then adopt. But she's been thinking about it for a while, and now she said, yeah, for sure, I'm going to do it. And that's such a huge thing, because you go to an orphanage and you see 30 kids who don't have parents, and when someone's going to take their time and do something like that, it's really quite amazing. Now, over to our sleep section. If she adopts that kid, she's not going to sleep as much, that's for sure. Anyway, so it was really a great trip. I missed you guys last week, and I'm happy to be back now, all in one piece. And again, like I said, I'll post some photos of the retreat, and we're probably thinking that next year we're going to do Africa. And then the year after, we'll go back to Peru. So we're going to try to do 1 or 2 a year. And for sure, let's just plan the first one, and possibly even 2 for next year. So we'll keep you guys updated on that. Because Scott has projects around, I think, 65 different countries. So I know he's got stuff in Cambodia. So we're going to do some traveling. And those of you that are donating to the Go Campaign will definitely be able to show you, and I think this is one of the great benefits, is you actually get to see where your money's going, right? So we'll choose a project and then actually head over there. So that's cool. Okay, so now to our sleep time. So that was a long introduction, but to sleep. So how much sleep do you want, and why do you want it? So I think the main thing is we want, according to the National Sleep Study, you want 7 to 9 hours of sleep. I'm lucky, I feel like I'm lucky, because I get 7 to 9 hours of sleep. And by the way, feel free to throw out some comments or ask questions or whatever you want. I'm going to give you basically my kind of 5 tips on how to get more sleep and what happens when you get more sleep. So this is interesting. 34%, I have my little cheat sheet here, 34% of people say they have driven after being awake for 17 to 19 hours, which studies say is equivalent to a blood alcohol content level of 0.05%. 34%. So I know none of you guys are in that situation, because you would never drive if you had a 0.05% alcohol consumption rate. And this is a total non sequitur. but I was listening, kind of catching up on some of the news over the last week that I was gone, and I listened to a podcast called The Daily by the New York Times, and this guy Michael Barbaro, and recently they were talking about the opioid epidemic. Do you know about this, Liz? I mean, it is unbelievable how many, apparently the number one cause of death now is, for people under 50 years old, is overdose, like opioid addiction and overdose. That's totally crazy to me. Anyway, we should talk about that some other time because it's totally off the track. But I was realizing with the lack of sleep, I was like, oh yeah, that's like some of these addicts aren't really getting sleep. Anyway, sorry about that. So 17 to 19 hours of no sleep. Jennifer, I get about 7 because I like to stay up late, but my body really needs 9. Well, it's interesting. So I was always 6.5 hours. I was like, I need 6.5. And you know, when I used to race, speaking of adventure racing, you basically go to the campsite and you start a race at whatever the start location is, usually in the afternoon. And then the race will begin, say like 6 p.m. or 9 p.m. or whatever, and you're not sleeping through the night at all. So there's no way you should be driving after racing for 20 hours. Hey Emma, during school and track season, I get about 5 or 6 hours of sleep because of homework and practice. During the summer, I like to get a good 8 to 10 hours. Well, I think that's 8 to 10 is good. Yeah, I mean, I know I felt fine when I was younger. Emma is in high school. I think you're in high school, Emma, right? But when I was younger, it was fine for me to get a little bit less sleep. But since meeting my wife, Lauren, she's like, I need 8 hours sleep. I can't live unless I have 8 hours of sleep. Things are different now that we have Madison because we don't exactly get. Yeah, Emma said she's in high school. So maybe it's okay, Emma, as you know, at that time to get a little bit less sleep. I'm glad you're getting 8 to 10 on the weekends. That's great. Or during the summertime. But anyway, Lauren was the one who said, I need 8 hours sleep. I need 8 hours sleep. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I know the studies say, 7 to 9, but I'm fine with 6.5 or 7. But then I said, all right, fine. You're going to be in bed this long. I'll try to stay in bed this long. And I started to get 8 hours of sleep. And I started to realize that I started feeling better for a longer time throughout the day. I used to kind of have a little bit of energy up and down. I'm a pretty high energy guy, but I used to have some dips kind of in the afternoon, and they happen. It's not a big deal. But nowadays I like a little coffee in the afternoon if I'm having a bit of a dip in energy. It's probably not the healthiest thing, so don't tell anyone. But anyway, 8 hours of sleep, frankly. For me now, 7.5 hours. I basically just wake up with 7.5 hours on a regular basis, and that seems to be my sweet spot. But studies show somewhere between 7 and 9 is enough to actually rejuvenate. Now, from a physical standpoint, we know that your body recovers best during sleep. There's no doubt about that at all. So there was a study, I'm going to see if I can remember this. There was a study about some basketball players, female basketball players that slept 10 hours. They were collegiate basketball players. Do you know about this? Their 3-point percentage shooting went up like 9%. So it was like, I mean, that's a huge deal, right? Was Lou saying, do you believe the theory that cell phones, even on silent, mess with your REM? Oh, there's something called EMF, which is electromagnetic frequencies, and this can go really off the deep end right now because there's all kinds of like weird culty, quackery things out there that are like, don't be anywhere near electromagnetic frequencies. And there are little monitors that you can get. In fact, we have one that measure the electromagnetic frequency near a particular device. So we stopped having a camera set up near Madison's crib, and we only have an audio remote thing that they used to use in the 70s. So instead of having the video set up right next, because it just gives off so much electromagnetic frequency, so we have the audio remote, Lou, on the other side of the room, so we still hear her. And as soon as she cries a little bit, or basically then we kind of go up and we get in there. So I do believe And for us, Lou, and maybe we bought into some of this little crazy quackery, but we turn off our Wi-Fi every night because we just unplug it, shut it off and unplug it, because there's no reason to have that, those electromagnetic frequencies ripping around. Vitali says, I guess there's many factors. How active are we? How we eat, what we watch, what we listen. Absolutely. Biked 200K per day for 30 days in a row, and your body recovered in 6 hours perfectly. Wow, that's a pretty epic bike ride there, Vitali. That's pretty epic. 30 days, 200 kilometers a day. For those of you that don't know kilometers, that's basically about 124 miles a day for 30 days. And your body recovered well in 6 hours. That's pretty amazing. Anyway, so yes, Lou, I do believe that a lot of that electronic stuff. So that's one of the tips, actually, is to shut down your I went to bed. My parents were like, okay, it's time to go to bed. And we had a TV in our room, so in our bedroom, and I just see Matt joined. What's going on, Matt Hennessy? Long time no talk, buddy. But back in high school, or even junior high, my parents put me in the room and said, okay, go to sleep now. And they'd turn the TV on, and the TV would be on. I'd fall asleep with the TV on. We would never do that now, ever, with Madison. There's not going to be a TV in her room, and there's not a TV in our room, because what you want to do is something called melatonin, right? Everybody's heard of melatonin, because if you travel and you're traveling overnight, you're just going to pop some melatonin and you're going to fall asleep. Well, guess what? Your body actually produces melatonin naturally, and it happens as the sun goes down, and it happens as you start to calm down and you start to get more tired. The melatonin starts to increase, and that's when you're supposed to go to bed. So people who worked the night shift for a long time. When I was at UCLA, I worked the night shift, and it was hard to sleep during the day. You need blackout blinds and in order to do that. Oh, Vitaly, across Canada. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. Congrats, man. That's pretty awesome, actually. This guy biked across Canada. Not bad. Anyway, so melatonin, right? That's one of the things that your body naturally produces. So what you want to do is listen to those signs. One way to keep yourself awake is to have the electronic stimulation on a regular basis, whether it's from a TV or whether you're sitting there on your phone, on your iPad, or whatever it is. Either read a book, or some kind of actual paper that isn't giving off the blue light. So once the sun goes down, you're better off dimming the lights, starting to chill out a little bit. And actually, all the iPhones, for those of you that are iPhone users, there's a little mechanism on there called night shift. And night shift, you can set it for a specific time. So I've set mine for 7 p.m. maybe, from 7 p.m. to basically 6 a.m. So those 11 hours. My phone has an amber glow to it. So it's not what's called blue light. I don't get that blue light popping into my eyes right away. It's kind of this amber light. And Jordan, actually, who used to work for me, he still does, but he's remotely working now. He has that amber light going all day long. And he's just used to it that way. So there's no affecting the melatonin production. For me, I'm okay with the phone being normal. I just keep the thing down. But we try not to watch TV and then go straight to bed. So that's one of the things that you want to do, is make sure you're kind of taking some time to relax as you unwind, and then you go to bed. You have a call coming in from Omaha. So the way this works here, you guys, I'm on Facebook on this camera for you guys, and then I'm on Instagram here for you guys. And the Instagram is Liz's phone, and she just got a call from Omaha, Nebraska. I don't know who it was. There's no name. Anyway, so let's see, Emma. Some nights so nervous before races that it takes me hours to get sleep, which is bad news when the race bib pickup is at 5 o'clock. So again, Emma is a new friend here, and I look forward to meeting you, Emma. She's coming to Malibu for our retreat, and she's a runner. and I actually stalked you a little on Instagram, Emma, and I see that you're racing a lot, which is good. But I'll tell you, there comes a time, so you just trust that this is going to happen. There comes a time where you're okay about the outcome and the preparation and all that sort of stuff leading up to your race. So you will sleep better. Like nowadays, I sleep much better. However, before races. However, that takes a little time, so you probably have a few more years. Typically, what they used to tell us at adventure racing is even nowadays with marathons and things, it's not the night before the race that you even want to think about having a good night's sleep. It's 2 nights before the race. So if the race is Saturday, it's Thursday night to Friday. That's the night that you really have to plan on getting a good night's sleep. And then, right, no phone calls during live streams. That will help me sleep better. Yeah, it's not your fault. That's funny. So Emma and anyone else who has any kind of thing that they're anticipating, a test or a race or whatever it is, for sure, the night before, sometimes you just have to do the best you can. Speaking of Peru, because I was mentioning it earlier, I would say for 9 days, let's see, I left Friday night on a red eye. So Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, that's 8, Saturday night, and then Sunday I took the red eye back. 10 nights I did not sleep all the way through the night. I think there might have been 1 night. So I'm definitely not as well recovered. Now, I did fine. I'm not sick. I didn't get sick or anything like that. But when you're in a new place and you're in elevation and you're in a camp, like we were at camp 3 nights ago, Saturday night, and then there's a roommate that, I don't know, Elliot is an amazing guy, but he got sick for 2 days, and I felt so bad for him because he got a little stomach issue while we were down in Machu Picchu. So he was up in the middle of the night kind of coughing, and I was kind of hearing a little bit of that. So it's tough. Sometimes there's going to be times where you're not going to be able to sleep, right? Jeff Thomas, hey Jeff. Jeff was with us on the retreat, as a matter of fact. And and so I don't think a lot of people really got consistent sleep. And again, it's because it's a different thing. But at the same time, there's a load of adrenaline going, and you're visiting all these different places and stimuli, and we were all commenting. We were like, oh my gosh, it's Tuesday, and it felt like we were in Peru for like 3 weeks already because there's so much happening. Let's see, Emma, I've only been racing for a year, running for 2 years, still a little new. Yes, and you have a big, long career ahead of you, Emma. I look forward to watching how it all turns out. But anyway, in general, what you want to do is when you can get a good amount of sleep, definitely get a good amount of sleep. And here, because I'm sort of running short on time, I try not to go over a half an hour for these quick bites. And so I want to get through a couple things here. If you sleep well, here's what it says. You may be in a better mood. Of course you're going to be in a better mood. We sort of covered that. 62% of people said insufficient or poor quality of sleep was responsible for their waking up in a bad mood. So that's an interesting thing because I firmly believe in waking up before your alarm, which means some of you have to be disciplined. For me, I'm one of you, and I need to be disciplined in going to sleep early. Lately I started staying up until 11, and for me 11 is too late because I'm typically up at 5:30. Naturally, my body time is like 5:30, 5:45, because I've kind of trained it to be that way. So 10:30 really is like 10 or 10:30 is my sleep. If I stay up until 11, I know I get a little bit tired. And to be woken up by a big alarm is not the best thing. I did it for years, and now that my body wakes up naturally prior to my alarm, I feel much happier about that. You may be nicer. It says 50% of people who suffer from lack of sleep say they are rude to others 1 to 3 times a day. Don't be rude. I don't care if you're tired. Don't be rude. You may get to work. Was that rude, the way I said that? You may get to work more often. 25% of the people say they occasionally call out of work because of exhaustion. You may be more productive, right? So these are all things we know. You may eat healthier. This I thought was interesting. 31% of people say they had poor eating habits when they suffered from lack of sleep. It kind of makes sense if you're sort of tired and you're kind of exhausted and you don't really feel like cooking or you don't feel like doing anything. You're just like, give me the Ritz crackers or the Oreo cookies or the ice cream or whatever it is. And that's horrible anyway. We all know those things aren't really good to be eating. I bumped into some friends yesterday at the grocery store, and sometimes I'm afraid to look at what people actually buy and that's in their grocery store, and that was like Ritz crackers and sweet candies, and I didn't really see like vegetables, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna just sort of deny because I love these. They're friends of mine, but I was like, all right, I can't show them. I'm sure they sleep very well. And they will go nameless. But anyway, and you may get less headaches. That's kind of the last thing. So you might get headaches. 41% of people say they got headaches when they suffered from lack of sleep. Maybe that's true. I don't know. I don't really get headaches, although unless I'm in elevation, as Jeff, if you're still there. We all know we were at 16,000 feet a couple nights ago, and everybody had headaches and everybody had nausea pretty much for the most part. But that's what happens when you're above 16,000 feet. Anyway, so a couple things. Remember to turn down all your electronics and give yourself some time to unwind. Don't have any big bright lights. Put your lights on a dimmer if you can and dim them, or get a light that is just, and turn off all the other lights and just start to chill out. Have some chamomile tea if you can drink a little bit of tea at night, or just definitely no coffee after, or no caffeine after pretty much 4 or 5 o'clock. I mean, depending on you, depending on your body, but you want to sort of like 3, 4 in the afternoon would be it. If you start having caffeine 5 or 6 o'clock, you might have some trouble sleeping. Then no electronics. And meditation too, you guys. Meditation, I teach meditation, and yoga are all great. There's plenty of yoga poses. This would be weird if I did this, but if you laid down on your back and put your legs against the wall, so let's say my head, both of you guys can see, my head would be here, the legs would be straight up the wall like that, and just chill and let gravity do the work there. That would be awesome. So those are 3 things, and that's enough. De-stress is the main thing. So limit your electronic usage as you go to bed. Turn down some of the lights, start to chill out, do a little meditation, do a little yoga, and get rid of your stress. And then I promise you, you will feel better and you'll get your good 7 to 9 hours of sleep. All right, you guys, thank you so much. I will see you next week, and have a great week. Thanks. Bye-bye.